The lights from the patrol car sliced through the fog as officers surrounded the quiet home in Ashford, Missouri. Inside, Megan Carter stood frozen at the window, her suitcase in one hand and a pistol in the other. Her 7-year-old son, Alex, was nowhere in sight, but her plan to rescue him was already in motion. The voice of her teenage daughter echoed in her mind. "Mom, please stop. You're scaring me." What started as a mother's fight for her child had turned into a cross-country manhunt, fueled by conspiracy, paranoia, and a digital crusade gone off the rails. This is the true story of how one mother, convinced she was saving her son, became a fugitive in what would be called one of the most bizarre custody cases in recent American history. It started with a cough. Not the kind that worries most parents, but for Megan Carter, every little sound her son made kept her up at night. 7-year-old Alex had always been a quiet kid, but over the past year, Megan said he had grown weak, pale, and tired all the time. She told friends and neighbors in her small town of Ashford, Missouri, that something was seriously wrong. Megan wasn't just any mother. She had once worked as a nurse's aide, and she spoke in medical terms that made people think she knew what she was talking about. Seizures, neurological damage, heart murmurs. Over time, the list grew. She claimed doctors had run dozens of tests, but none could figure out what was happening to Alex. Still, she kept taking him to hospitals and specialists, never staying long at one place. Every doctor who said Alex was fine was just another clueless idiot to Megan. To outsiders, she looked like a heartbroken mom doing everything she could. Her Facebook was full of photos of Alex in hospital beds and long posts asking for prayers. Then, one day, everything changed. A tip was sent to Child Protective Services. The caller said Megan might be making up her son's symptoms, or worse, causing them. CPS began looking into it, and after months of quiet investigation, they removed Alex from Megan's care. He was placed with a foster family while doctors evaluated him. Within weeks, the truth came out: Alex was completely healthy. Megan had been lying for years. The official diagnosis was Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a mental illness where a caregiver, usually a parent, makes up or causes illnesses in someone else to gain attention or sympathy. The authorities said Megan had subjected Alex to unnecessary medical treatments and emotional trauma. Her nursing background had helped her fake just enough to fool people, for a while. To the rest of the world, it was an open and shut case. But not to Megan. She didn't believe she had a disorder. She didn't believe the doctors. And she sure as hell didn't believe that CPS had taken Alex for his own good. In her mind, she was being punished for being a good mom. A protective mom. And so, Megan Carter's descent began. At first, it was just random videos. She spent hours on YouTube, looking for stories like hers. That's where she found it, an entire online community of parents who had also lost their kids to CPS. Some of them believed the government was stealing children to make money. Others said child protection agencies were part of something darker. One name came up again and again: Carter Reed. Reed was a former Navy pilot turned online personality, now living in rural Idaho. He called himself a whistleblower and had built a huge following by claiming that the US government was secretly running a child trafficking ring through CPS. Megan watched every video she could find of him. His deep voice, his calm explanations, his confidence, it all felt like the truth. He even had a name for his movement: the Children's Guard. He promised he would expose the lies and take down the system, one case at a time. Late one night, Megan messaged him. To her surprise, he replied. "I've seen your story," he wrote. "You're not crazy. You're awake." Those words hit her like lightning. Over the next few weeks, they exchanged dozens of messages. Megan started posting in online groups tied to the Children's Guard. She shared her story, and other moms backed her up. They said CPS had stolen their kids too. Some believed Megan's son was taken because he was chosen by some secret group. One woman even said that foster homes were run by Satanists. It was insane. But to Megan, it finally made sense. By April 2022, Megan had quit her part-time job and rarely left her house. Her teenage daughter, Ella, had moved out months earlier to live with her grandparents. They had warned Megan to stop. They had begged her to get help. But she didn't listen. She had a new family now, her brothers and sisters in the fight, as Carter Reed called them. And then came the phone call. It was from a man named Travis Lee, one of Reed's most loyal followers. Travis lived in Oklahoma and had spent years going to court trying to get his own kids back. He told Megan he was a protector now. He said she needed someone to watch her back. Megan didn't hesitate. She invited him to Missouri. Travis showed up 4 days later. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried a military-style backpack. Megan introduced him to neighbors as a friend helping with legal stuff. But he wasn't a lawyer. He wasn't even employed. He told Megan not to trust the courts. He said the only way to win was through divine action. They started making plans. By May, Megan's house looked more like a bunker. Windows were covered with foil, security cameras were installed, and she started sleeping with a pistol next to her bed. Travis began training her at a shooting range outside town. He said it was for protection. That's when they came up with the plan. It was simple, at least in their heads. Travis had gotten a hold of what he believed was the foster family's address. He said they would go there at night, take Alex back, and disappear. They would drive west, maybe to Utah, where Carter Reed had contacts. Megan felt alive again. For the first time in months, she had a purpose. But she didn't keep the plan a secret. One night, she told Ella. They were sitting in the kitchen, eating leftover pizza and drinking iced tea like nothing was wrong. Megan looked her daughter in the eye and said, "I'm getting your brother back. Travis and I are going to fix everything. We're leaving next week." Ella froze. She knew her mom had changed. But this was something else. She tried to stay calm, nodded, and said she understood. She hugged her mom and said goodnight. Then she went straight to her room, locked the door, and called the police. Ella Carter's hands trembled as she ended the call with the Ashford Police Department. She had done it. She had turned in her own mother. As she sat there, curled up on her bed in the dark, her heart pounded like a war drum. She didn't know what the police would do, but she knew one thing: if her mother followed through with the plan, someone was going to get hurt, or worse. Downstairs, Megan and Travis were packing. She could hear them moving around in the garage, gathering supplies like it was the end of the world. Ella stayed silent. She didn't want to tip them off. She just wanted them to leave, before someone showed up with handcuffs and guns. At 3:12 a.m., Megan's phone buzzed. The screen lit up with Carter Reed's name. "Megan," he said urgently, "you've been exposed. Someone tipped them off. You need to leave now." Her eyes widened. She jumped out of bed, ran to Travis's room, and banged on the door. "They're on to us," she said. "Carter just called. We have to go." Travis didn't hesitate. "We leave in 10. Within minutes, they were gone. When the police showed up an hour later, the house was empty. The only thing left behind was a copy of the U.S. Constitution on the kitchen table and a half-drunk cup of coffee. Megan and Travis hit the road heading south. They turned off their phones, paid cash for gas, and stayed off major highways. Travis called it ghost traveling. They slept in the car during the day and drove at night. Megan kept looking out the window, her mind spinning. Every car they passed felt like a tale. Every gas station felt like a trap. They made their first stop in Oklahoma, at a small, weather-beaten farmhouse just outside Tulsa. A man named Larry, another member of the Children's Guard, opened the door. "You made it," he said. "Carter told me to expect you." Larry was a prepper. His house was filled with canned food, maps, and ammunition. Megan and Travis stayed there for a few days, laying low, planning their next move. Carter Reed sent them videos to watch, long rants about the deep state, child rescue operations, and coded Bible verses that supposedly predicted everything they were doing. To Megan, it all felt like a sign. She believed more than ever that she was meant to do this. Back in Missouri, the police had issued a statewide alert. Megan Carter was officially wanted for conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Her face was on the news. Her daughter had been interviewed. The foster family that had taken in Alex was moved to a new, undisclosed location. Megan didn't see any of that. She didn't want to. She believed the entire justice system was part of the cover-up. She told Travis that judges, lawyers, even child psychologists, were paid to lie. To her, this wasn't crime. This was war. After Tulsa, they traveled to Texas. That's where the Children's Guard was building what Carter Reed had called a safe zone, a compound for rescued children and freedom fighters. The place was barely started, just a trailer on a dry patch of land outside Amarillo, but to Megan, it looked like a sanctuary. They stayed there for 2 weeks, sleeping in sleeping bags and cooking over a fire. But things started to shift. Megan noticed Carter's tone in his videos was changing. He seemed paranoid, scattered. He rambled about internal threats, people trying to infiltrate the group. He accused longtime members of being agents. And he stopped answering Megan's messages. She started to wonder, had he moved on from her? Travis wasn't concerned. "Forget Carter," he said. "He talks big but doesn't act. You and me, we're the ones actually doing something." But Megan had started to feel the cracks. Everywhere they went, promises were made and then broken. No one actually helped her get her son back. They talked a lot, about court filings, about special letters to sovereign judges, even about getting her case directly to Trump, but nothing ever came of it. She had started this to bring Alex home. But all she'd done was run. Still, she couldn't stop. Not now. Then one night, a car pulled into the compound. A tall man stepped out, holding a folder. His name was Chris Holloway, another one of Carter's followers, but he claimed to be something more. "I'm with E-Law," he said. "We help parents like you win cases with legal truth." Chris was smooth. Polished. He said all the right things. Megan was hooked. He told her to follow him to Florida, where he ran a legal help center. He said he'd studied law for years and had a strategy to win her case. It wouldn't involve courts or lawyers, it would involve truth. Natural law. Sovereignty. Megan and Travis left Texas the next morning. Florida was worse. Chris lived in a rundown office space above a vape shop in Ocala. He had no law degree, no bar license, just stacks of printed-out legal templates and a whiteboard filled with confusing legal terms. For weeks, Megan stayed in a nearby motel, following Chris's guidance, writing documents she didn't understand, mailing petitions to courts that never responded. Travis was getting restless. He wanted to move. Megan wanted to believe. But when weeks turned into a month, and still nothing happened, Megan confronted Chris. "You promised me results," she said. Chris shrugged. "It's not me. The system's rigged." That's when Megan snapped. "No. You're just like the rest of them. Talk, talk, talk. You don't care about Alex, you just want attention." Chris didn't argue. He just told her to leave. Back on the road, Megan was a mess. She felt abandoned. She had left everything behind, her daughter, her home, her job, and for what? "I don't know who to trust anymore," she told Travis. "Then don't trust anyone," he replied. "Except me." They drove northwest, stopping only for gas. Travis said they could head to Montana. One of his online friends had landed near Kalispell and promised them a place to hide out for a while. But Megan knew, deep down, they weren't just running anymore. They were being hunted. Meanwhile, the FBI had taken over the case. They were tracking Megan and Travis through surveillance footage, tips from motel clerks, even gas station cameras. They had been quietly following their trail from Oklahoma to Texas to Florida. And they were closing in. By the time Megan and Travis reached Montana, it was early October. The air was cold. Snow was starting to fall. They found an old cabin on the edge of the woods, no internet, no cell service. Just a fireplace and a few supplies. Megan stared out the window every night, waiting for something. A sign. A miracle. A message from Carter Reed. Anything to tell her she hadn't ruined her life for nothing. But there was only silence. One morning, Travis returned from the nearby town with groceries and a warning. "They're close," he said. A clerk asked too many questions. "I think we're burned." Megan panicked. She started packing again. She didn't know where they'd go, Utah? Idaho? Canada? Then, just as they were about to leave, there was a knock at the cabin door. It was soft. Careful. Megan froze. Travis reached for the pistol he kept tucked behind the couch. The knock came again. "Megan Carter," a voice called out from behind the door. "FBI." The knock at the cabin door echoed through the cold air like a final warning. "Megan Carter? This is the FBI." Inside, Megan stood frozen, a suitcase clutched in one hand. Travis had already ducked behind the couch, his hand on the grip of his pistol. But Megan didn't move. Her body felt like stone. Her whole journey, the raids, the road trips, the rabbit holes, had led to this. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she whispered. The voice outside came again. "We're not here to hurt you. Please step outside." Alone. Megan looked at Travis. His jaw was clenched. His finger twitched near the trigger. "Don't," she told him softly. "It's over." He didn't stop her. He didn't say anything. Megan stepped outside with her hands raised. The wind bit at her face as federal agents swarmed from behind trees and rocks, weapons drawn, voices loud and sharp. It was all over in under a minute. She was placed in cuffs, loaded into the back of a black SUV, and driven away. For the first time in months, the road was quiet. Back in Ashford, Missouri, the news spread quickly. Megan Carter arrested in Montana after 3-month manhunt. Mother who plotted kidnapping of son caught. People who had once donated to her GoFundMe quietly removed their shares. Former neighbors shook their heads in disbelief. And Ella. Ella just cried. She had hoped this would end. She just never thought it would end this way. The legal process moved fast. Megan was charged with conspiracy to commit kidnapping, obstruction of justice, and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. She tried to represent herself using the sovereign citizen language she had learned from Carter Reed's followers. The judge called it frivolous and nonsensical. Her request to represent herself was denied. A court-appointed attorney took over. The trial was quiet. Megan pled guilty under a deal that avoided a long sentence but required her to admit what she had done. For the first time, she heard herself say it out loud. "I lied about my son's health. I tried to take him back by force. I was wrong." Alex remained with his foster family, healthy, safe, and slowly recovering from the years of medical abuse. CPS stated he had adjusted well to school and therapy. He still missed his mom sometimes. But when asked what he remembered most, he said, "She always said I was sick. But I never felt sick." Travis Lee was charged separately. He refused a deal. He insisted the government was lying. In the end, he was found guilty and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Chris Holloway, the fake legal expert from Florida, was fined and banned from offering any legal services again. Carter Reed deleted most of his content and vanished from the internet. No compound. No children rescued. Just empty promises and broken families. Megan was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. During her time behind bars, she was placed in therapy and evaluated multiple times. Slowly, cracks in her thinking began to show. She started asking real questions, not about conspiracies, but about herself. Why did I do it? Why did I believe them? What really happened to my son? She wrote letters to Ella. Most went unanswered. But on the 4th one, Ella replied, "I don't hate you, Mom. But I can't pretend nothing happened. You have to get better." Megan folded the letter and kept it close. It was the only real thing she had left. In the end, justice was served, but scars remained. A little boy lost his childhood to a lie. A daughter lost her trust. A mother lost her freedom chasing shadows. And a movement built on fear, anger, and fantasy nearly turned deadly. But the story doesn't end there. Carter Reed? He's still out there. New name. New channels. Same message. Others like him pop up every year, offering easy answers to hard problems. And desperate people? They're always listening. So now we ask you, should people who spread dangerous conspiracies online be held responsible when others act on them? How do we protect vulnerable parents from falling into radical movements? What would you have done if Megan Carter was your mother, your neighbor, or your child? Let us know in the comments.
Subscribe to our channel to get more videos.